What did you do before the end of 2024? This is what I did. I was capturing this on the last day of the year. I was using a Ranga fountain pen from India. It's an eyedropper. That means the whole barrel can be filled. And I filled it with non-waterproof ink. And these are small things that happened before the year ended for me. I took my daughter to a pottery class at this place called the Pottery Jungle. I was practicing reading from a real book before I sleep instead of looking at my phone. Kids at home making lots of noise. My daughter kept asking to go to a cat cafe after my brother-in-law brought her to one. My son was liking the truck song from the Pixar Cars on the Road series. Bedtime. And I've been making homemade pasta with this contraption that I bought. By the way, if you want to take a course on drawing comics, which covers the really basics from drawing characters all the way to simple storytelling, my online course on drawing comics is now live. It's a 2-part series and you can find it on Skillshare. It's a few days later and now to color the page. So I drew this with non-waterproof fountain pen ink. So I can't do a wash with watercolor or any other wet medium. So one good option is Chalk Pastels, like you saw in my sketchbook tour. And I think these are from 2 different brands. I think most of them are from this brand, Conte a Paris. Am I pronouncing it right? Probably not. Conte a Paris, I have no idea. And it comes in this cool box. I think it comes with this range of colors and I bought some other colors from a different brand. I cut out some felt and just lined it up. So I lined up the base, lined up the sides, and then the top part, which I put here. I used a tin box, which had mints. And I have this string here because after a while I found it quite troublesome to open this tin box. It gets too tight. So with this string here, I can just grab it like this and put it open, rather than trying to pry it with my fingernails, which hurts. Doing the sketchbook tour reminded me about these soft pastels, so I'm going to try them out. Doing a comic, one challenge about using soft pastels in a small comic like this is that everything is so small, so I can't really spread it like crazy. I have to be careful where I put my colors. One thing that might help would be this paper roll or tortillon. Is that a French word? Let's see how this works. The only thing is that it's a bit dirty. Maybe I need to clean that out. First thing before I do the chalk pastels is I'm going to check if each panel has enough contrast for the main characters. So I'm looking out if the important parts have enough darks next to the whites, because I want to do all the pen work before I do the chalk pastels. Okay, I think that should be enough. No need to overdo it. Okay, let's do the chalk pastels. I'm just pressing really lightly and I'm not even covering the whole thing. It's just like putting a bits of... I'm gonna try my finger first because I'm a bit scared of using this. So I'm just putting the chalk pastels on just one corner and then I'm just rubbing it towards the rest of the area. It's gonna bleed out a bit, but it's gonna be okay. My chalk pastels only have limited colors, so I think that also keeps the whole drawing a bit more cohesive. I don't like a rainbow's range of colors, but that's just me. The nice thing about chalk pastels is it can mix the colors, so you can blend it a bit quite easily. So as you can see, it's just kind of just placing a bit of powder here and then just rubbing it. It's not coloring the whole thing and then rubbing it. And that gives you this kind of glowy effect. And just gonna do the table here. I think it was a gray table. Just pressing really lightly. Ooh, my finger has a bit of, how about I just use this now? Look at this accidental mistake, but it does give a nice orangey glow to this, which I like. So that's one of the pros of using natural media. You get these nice accidents. One thing that I usually remind myself when I do my coloring these days is always leave enough white areas. In terms of this media, it would be leaving enough paper white areas. If I color everything, the whole panel is going to look too heavy. Leaving enough whites gives it this very light, breezy feel. Okay, so this is a nighttime scene. This part is a bit dark because the lights are off. Again, I'm not putting a lot. I'm just going to put a bit of dust there and then rubbing it. Thinking of it as dust is one way that makes sense to me. Then I would treat it as dust. Kind of know how dust behaves. Okay, so this is going to be dark, this part's going to be brighter, and yet it's nighttime, and I'm going to leave a bit of white. There's going to be this yellow glow around generally here, and then when it gets darker, there's going to be this more cool bluish color, so I'm just going to apply. Oops, maybe I shouldn't have. Oops, oh well. So the nice thing about Chalk Pastels is that you can erase it. Pretty cool, huh? So you don't have to be too afraid of messing things up. You can actually erase it like a pencil. And my skin needs to have some color too. Check what color my finger is. Things are in the light, the color tends to be more intensified. When things are in the shadows, the colors become, well, the reds kind of disappear into more duller, like blues. That's what I learned in some documentary. Let's move on to the next one. So hopefully the color will make this a bit more easier to read because there's lots of things going on. I have to also simplify. If I'm just going to color every area according to what color they really are, it's going to just look really messy. So I'm not going to start with the faces because I guess the faces are going to be, well, I know what color the faces are going to be. Okay, I just need to be careful. What happens if I use a tortillon for this? Okay, tiny bit muddy, but I guess it will work. A bit muddy. I'm gonna use my last finger that hasn't touched any of the chalk. So it's okay if it bleeds out. I like the look when it bleeds out. I don't know about you. It's pretty cool to me. Okay, so this already helps the people to stand out a bit more because that's where the color is. What else should I do about this? I guess when I wear a black shirt, I usually wear beige pants. I don't really have a beige color, so I'm gonna mix like a bit of gray with a bit of yellow. I guess gray and yellow mix beige. Maybe a bit more gray. Don't want it to be too yellow. Does it look like I'm wearing pants? I'm gonna make it slightly different than my skin color because I don't want to look like I'm not wearing pants. Good grief, looks worse. Okay, now I'm just gonna, okay, I think this will do. I keep it simple. I don't want to try to make it too perfect. I'll feel too stressed and feel like coloring a comic is too stressful, so keeping it short is one key to keeping it fun. That's what I tell myself. I'm just gonna give them blue shirts. that. This is a pillow they're holding. Shadow underneath. Let's just add some pops of color. Not too much. Okay, just let's see what color. This is gonna give me some neutral color because all the colors are all mixed up on this thing. And this will just give us just a bit of contrast so the dialog bubbles pop up a bit because the dialog bubbles are white. I think that's working. It's a strategy I just thought up as I am doing this. I think that's working. Just found I can add some contrast to the mouth there. Yes, you can put ink over chalk. I'm not sure whether it's the best thing because ink over chalk. Does it really stick? I don't know. Maybe. Add some black to the hair. And since the shirt's already black, I'm just gonna add some bluish tint. Chalk actually covers over black ink and makes it a bit more faded. So one thing to take note of. Just want to color this hair because there's too many gaps in there. I think I can do this technique where I'm just rubbing off the chalk pastel. That's one thing I learned in the other video that I did when I was sketching outdoors. Almost forgot about that. Okay, so some shadow here. Yep, not overdoing it. Some bleeding out. If there's too much bleeding out, I can always erase it. Look at that. So if you like a neater artwork, no fear. I can be neat too. All right, let's do this. So the face, I don't always need to have the same color. I can mix a bit of orange with the bit more reddish thing. Sometimes blending two colors can be a nice thing. Actually, I don't like too much orange, so I'm gonna fade it a bit. I guess I could think of the eraser as a fading tool. Don't really like too much of the yellow, so I'm just gonna make it a bit more reddish there. And I'm just gonna give my hairline a bit more definition. My hair is short, but I think I just look odd if I don't have any hair at all. Now I look like I have red hair. Oh, good grief. How do I do this? Okay, I'm just gonna add some black, spread it around. I think I'm going to do this technique again. This is actually a pretty good technique for coloring in small spaces. This was outside in the dark. Let's just add some blue just for interest, because if everything is just one color, sometimes it can look a bit boring. So do I do a fixative over? I could, but I seldom do. I do have a fixative in my drawer. Might be a good idea, but I don't mind my chalk pastels kind of ruining the other page. I like those accidental things. This door is white, but at night it does look a bit more bluish. I can use some blue to kind of shadow my head. This would be kind of a 3/4 view if you've taken my comic class on Skillshare. Okay. Okay, and my wife would be having this. Okay, I guess this would be an exception where this is a pretty dark scene, so there isn't much reason to put a space where it's all solid white. So I'm just leaving small bits of white just so that there's contrast in important areas, like here, here. I guess I could, this part's not so important for contrast. So the white areas appear here, here, and it contrasts against anything that's darker. The other thing that's contrasting is the white speech bubbles and the white top. So in a way, this panel isn't too heavy even though I've colored everything, because there's enough pops of white. All right, let's do this. I think I'll just do my face. I wonder how it's gonna spread with this. It's gonna look a bit funny, I suppose. So I have to kind of nudge it in there. My dining table is kind of brownish, yellowish. So not exactly this brown. Don't really like this brown, so I'm just gonna mix it with this. Not exactly, so I'm gonna mix it with a bit of, I'll mix it with a bit of white. Let's try that. Do I know what's gonna happen before I try? No, I don't. Just sometimes you just have to just try it and then you'll know. No, it doesn't work. A bit of yellow, too yellow. Maybe a bit lighter. I think there was tomato sauce in this. I don't want to ruin it with anything dark, so I'm just going to use my last cleaner's finger. I want some whites of the plate there. My background, it's kind of nighttime, but isn't too dark, and yet isn't too bright either. It's kind of a night glowish, you know, when the lamps are on at night and having dinner, so bluish on the darker parts. Oh man, I'm overdoing this. Yeah, maybe I'm overdoing it. Add more. I'm just gonna leave his shirt white because I want the contrast to be around that area. I'm gonna make the chair black so that it contrasts against his shirt and his face, and that would make him stand out. Feels a bit heavy even though I left enough white, so I'm gonna lighten these colors a bit. If not, this picture doesn't look so light-hearted. Yeah, so that's about it. Do I want to add anything? No, don't spoil it, right? It's okay. I'm just gonna ruin it. Yeah, if I want to add a bit of, you know, like a bit of red, a bit of warm colors, you can. Rosy cheeks, if you want. So this is another way you could color your comic. You could color it digitally with watercolor and with chalk pastels. And I personally have been liking chalk pastels because I don't have to worry about how thick the paper is. It kind of works on any paper. It's a bit messy, but I can just wash this off. And you can also erase, so you have this thing to fall back on. Let me show you some other sketches where I used chalk pastels. I think I should wash my hands first. So this is some quick urban sketching. I just used 2 or 3 colors only. Roger at a coffee cafe, me with a cockroach catcher. At another coffee cafe with my wife. She also likes coffee. So chalk pastels can be used for quick urban sketching as well. And this is my urban sketching in comic form during a meeting with my friends. Again with non-waterproof ink. As you can see, this is kind of smudged here. I didn't use any fixative for these pages. So far this has been a few days and it has not smudged, even though I've carried this book around closed, so I don't see it as a big concern. So this is another comic where I used pastels. This was a really quick one and I colored this in a very minimal way. As you can see, just little pops of color here and there, just here and there. I didn't even bother to color every item. And this one is, you know, if everything's shadow, the characters are bluish, just a bit of warm color. This whole bunch of people is blue, just rubbed away so that this person has some contrast. Yep, and that's what I'm gonna do. And in fact, I'm about to rush to class right now. So if you like, try out chalk pastels and see how it goes. I feel like I'm selling this or something. So have fun and thanks for watching.